The chapter begins with the aftermath of Loki's defiance. He's still chained up, exhausted, and covered in injuries. But despite all of that, something catches his attention immediately. Standing before him is a man who looks exactly like red-haired Shanks. Not similar, not someone who reminds him of Shanks. The exact same face. Loki can't believe what he's seeing. He even says that he originally thought it was just a coincidence, but now it's impossible to ignore. Anyone would find it strange that two people share the same face. Gunko immediately tells him to stay out of it because it's none of his business, but Loki keeps pushing the issue. And then Oda gives us one of the biggest reveals in the Final Saga. Shamrock calmly says that the pirate Loki is talking about is actually his younger twin brother. Yes, you heard that right. Shanks has a twin brother. This changes everything we thought we knew about Shanks.
For years, fans have wondered why Shanks seemed to have special privileges with the world government, and why he was allowed to meet the 5 elders. Now we finally have another piece of the puzzle. Shamrock explains that Shanks returned to the Holy Land at one point, but eventually became attached to the filthy world on the surface. This statement tells us how the celestial dragons think. To them, the entire world outside Mary Geoise is dirty and beneath them. In their eyes, Shanks abandoned his noble status and chose to live among common people. That decision may be why Shamrock sees his own brother as someone who went astray.
Loki then says something interesting. He says it's funny that he somehow ended up hating both brothers. Apparently, he has some kind of grudge against both Shanks and Shamrock. And despite being chained up and injured, Loki still hasn't given up. He says that when he gets free, he will make it his mission to avenge his friends. But Shamrock isn't even remotely intimidated. He looks at Loki and basically says, "Was that supposed to be a threat?" Then things get even crazier. Shamrock pulls out his sword and suddenly asks a question. "Isn't that right, Cerberus?" At first, nobody understands what he means. And then, the sword transforms. A massive 3-headed wolf suddenly appears. Cerberus, the legendary guardian of the underworld. Each of its heads is snarling and bearing huge fangs. The creature looks absolutely terrifying. Loki is completely shocked. He has no idea what he's looking at. Shamrock then explains that this is his biting blade. This raises a lot of questions. Is the sword alive? Did it eat a devil fruit? Or is this some kind of special holy knight ability? Whatever the answer is, the power looks incredibly dangerous.
The Cerberus attacks with all 3 heads at once, and the sheer size of the creature makes it look like a monster straight out of mythology. Even Loki, one of the strongest giants in Elbaf, seems surprised. But after showing off his power, Shamrock doesn't stay to fight. Instead, he prepares to leave. Before going, he gives Loki one final message. "If you survive this, feel free to come after me." Those words are cold. They're also incredibly confident. Shamrock doesn't fear Loki at all. He simply walks away as if none of this matters. And that may tell us something important. The captain of the God's Knights is so powerful that he doesn't even consider Loki a serious threat. This entire scene serves 2 purposes. First, it officially confirms that Shanks has a twin brother. And second, it establishes Shamrock as one of the most dangerous new characters in the Final Saga. A man with the same face as Shanks. A man connected to the celestial dragons. And a man who commands a terrifying creature called Cerberus. If this is only our introduction to Shamrock, then Oda is clearly setting him up to play a huge role in the future of One Piece.
The chapter then shifts away from Loki and Shamrock and returns to Quest Castle. The giants are in complete confusion. Some of them are absolutely convinced that they saw red-haired Shanks. One giant even calls another a liar for doubting him and says that he saw Shanks with his own eyes. But the others can't accept that. After all, Shanks has visited Elbaf many times and is considered a friend of the giants. He would never attack people for no reason. Luffy immediately agrees. To him, Shanks is always calm, kind, and laid back. There is simply no way the man they saw could be the Shanks that Luffy knows. Little by little,
another possibility begins to form. Maybe it wasn't Shanks at all. Maybe it was someone who looked exactly like him. Then the conversation becomes even more interesting. Someone mentions that perhaps it could have been Shanks' brother. Luffy, being Luffy, says that if Shanks has a brother, he must probably be a nice guy too. That innocent comment is actually pretty funny, because the readers now know that Shamrock may be anything but nice. Luffy then starts thinking about Shanks' past. He remembers that Shanks was raised by Roger and Rayleigh, and that the Roger pirates were basically his real family. Shanks rarely talked about his biological family, and now we finally understand why. He was born into the Figureland family, one of the most important bloodlines among the celestial dragons. That alone is one of the biggest reveals in One Piece history.
The scene then changes again, this time following Frankie's group. They arrive at the treasure tree Atom and are amazed by its size. The tree stretches as far as the eye can see. Frankie is shocked to learn that the wood from this tree is extremely valuable outside Elbaf. As they continue exploring, they discover something strange. There is a giant mural carved into the tree itself. At first, they think it might just be random drawings, but then they learn something unbelievable. The mural may be between 800 and 900 years old. That time period immediately catches our attention. Why? Because it places the mural directly in the Void Century, the forbidden century that the world government has tried to erase from history. Suddenly, this discovery becomes incredibly important.
The group realizes that Robin absolutely needs to see this. But there is something even stranger about the mural. Not all of the figures look like giants. Some of them appear to be completely different races. This suggests that there may have been a time when many races lived and worked together, a time that existed before the world was divided, a time that may have been destroyed during the Void Century.
Then we move to one of the most important locations in the entire chapter, the Owl Library. Inside is an ancient text known as the Harley. The Giants explain that this book contains the myths and legends of Elbaf. It has been studied for generations and interpreted in countless different ways. Robin immediately becomes interested. The warriors of Elbaf explain that there are many different versions of the sun god Nika legend throughout the world, but they all share one thing in common. The sun god appears while laughing and dancing. That description sounds exactly like Gear 5th Luffy. Then, Robin begins reading the Harley aloud, and what she reads may be one of the most important pieces of information in the entire series. The text speaks of 3 different worlds. The first world. The earth burned in endless flame. The hearts of men burned with desire.
The sun god rose because of the prayers of the enslaved. The world eventually fell into ruin. Darkness spread everywhere, and those who fought would never meet again. Then comes the second world. The god of the forest used magic. The sun lit the embers of war. People dreamed beneath the full moon. But those who killed the sun brought forth the wrath of the sea god. Once again, the people would never meet again. Finally, there is the third world. A world filled with chaos. A world drifting toward an unknown future. Yet the memory of the promised day still remains. And then comes the most important line of all. Once more, the sun god shall rise. Laughing, dancing, guiding the world to its final act. The sun is reborn. A new dawn will break. Surely, this time, they will meet. This prophecy clearly points toward Nika, and in the present day, there is only one person carrying the power of Nika, Monkey D. Luffy. This chapter doesn't just reveal secrets about Shanks and the Figureland family. It also gives us our biggest look yet at the ancient history of the world. The Void Century, the 3 worlds, the return of the sun god, and the final dawn that will change everything. Oda is making one thing clear. The Final Saga is no longer just about becoming Pirate King. It is about the fate of the entire world.